Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special council meeting of Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. I'll now call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Administrative and procedure issues 2.1. There's a recommended motion that the agenda for today's meeting be approved as presented. If someone would be so kind as to make the motion. Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Lockhart. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. The motion is carried. 2.2, declaration of conflict of interest. Members are required to declare conflict of interest prior to any discussion on the matter. 2.3, public hearings. Public hearing bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 2507 to rezone multiple PIDs along Wyvern Road and Wentworth Collingwood Road. Director of Development, Mr. Boone. You want to speak now, or do you want me to read the rules of the public hearing first?
Your Worship, that would be pretty.
I'll get it open, yes, in a minute. I'm going to read the rules first, though. Yeah, let's do that.
Read first.
Yeah, that's what was the plan, so. Okay, so, a few things for the public and people that are attending here today. I would like to advise you that the public hearing will be held according to the provisions of the Municipal Government Act, and that the purpose of the public hearing is to provide the public with the opportunity to express their views on certain proposals prior to council making a final decision, which will not happen today. There will be no vote by council today. We will simply listen to all of the input, and the vote will be at a future date. There will be a presentation by staff, and there will be opportunity to discuss any written submissions, and any people that are here today will have the opportunity to speak for or against the proposal. And I will also point out to you that each person, when you come to, if you want to speak, you will tell the chair, myself, your name and your address. You will have 5 minutes, and we do have a timer here. Mr. Harrop has a timer. You'll get 5 minutes to speak. There will be no discussion in the gallery back and forth between any of the people that will be speaking up at the table here today. Any discussion will come through me, the chair, and back to the appropriate staff person. Anyone wants to get outside of that and start a discussion or whatever in the gallery, I will adjourn the meeting, and those people will be asked to leave. And then I will re-adjourn and reconvene the meeting at that point. So just to be clear, those are the rules. Okay, so I will now call the public hearing to order and ask Mr. Boone to do the presentation on the proposed bylaw or amendment. Go ahead, Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, those in the gallery visiting us today for the public hearing, and staff. Your Worship, you've already provided the rules of engagement alongside of the process, so I'm going to give an overview. I will talk with regards to some of the inputs that would have been received in this matter that wouldn't be in your council package because of when they were received. And we'll give a good overview. Be happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. So, public hearing, as council's aware, is the second step in a rezoning process. This has gone through first reading, so we've brought the subject property and the background is before you on the screen. Several PIDs are involved, multiple PIDs, because it's a large tract of land, as most are in the room are aware, and those in the gallery as well. So the plan is to change this from the resource designation to the commercial recreation zone. The reason for the change is that commercial rec is an appropriate zone where you're going to do a multiple number of things, developments that would not be typically in a rural resource zone. So for example, the development of the golf course component, potentially the clubhouse and restaurants, as well as the housing development, are things that would not typically be in the rural resource zone. A similar zone to this would be for campgrounds and other resorts. This is just for not comparison, but for information purposes, is the same zone that we have on the Fox Harbor Resort. So there's going to be another map here to give a little context, but this is near the corner of the Collingwood corner, which is the intersection between the Wyvern Road, which leads back to Oxford, as well as the Wentworth Collingwood Road. The points of access I'm going to talk about here a little later. So just to kind of put the subject property into the background here, Your Worship.
Thank you.
So the development has a concept plan in and around the golf course, as well as potential for the residential development. The key things about the project I want to note is that development on the component that would be the housing or the private housing subdivision would be serviced potentially with on-site sewage disposal, so OSS, or a private centralized sewer system and water system are both being considered as part of this development. Those are not required to be fully designed and fully vetted out at the rezoning stage. It's just important for me to note to council and the public that there are two options here for servicing it. Any approved system, whether it's a private centralized sewer and water system or individual on-site sewage disposal systems for individual buildings or homes, would all have to be approved by the Nova Scotia Department of Environment. So that's standard with any kind of development that happens outside of our municipal sewer systems. Proposed systems, as I mentioned, are approved by environment, and approval for the servicing would be part of any subdivision approval for the residential components of this development. From a road system perspective, private roads would be the access into this development, so there would be no public roads. These would be private roads to be constructed and maintained by the developer, by the property owner, and road designs and constructions are still subject to municipal approval, and that again happens at the subdivision stage. So the conversations to date with our developer and the proponent have been very open and detailed on that process, but those strict engineering details come at that subdivision stage, Your Worship. Proposed uses for the project, as I mentioned, the golf course, potential for residential building lots. It's again conceptual only at this point. So the thought behind that, it could be up to 180 residential units. And the reason we talk about the potential for the development is to make it clear to those that live in the area and those that have questions or concerns on the development, that's the potential. That doesn't necessarily mean it happens immediate or even happens at all to that extent over time. Potential for some RV parking here as well to complement the overall commercial recreation use of the site. The plan is to look at a restaurant and a pro shop, typical with a golf course development, as well as fixed roof overnight accommodation. So essentially an inn or small overnight hotel facility. It will include hiking and Nordic ski trails that will complement and allow this to be a four-season development as well. So a couple of concept pictures here. It's no secret that development of the lands has been underway for some time. The owner of the land can do landscaping, can shape your property, can do tree clearing. Just what happens as part of the rezoning is no development or operations can actually take place without the rezoning in place. The proponent and the owner of the land is clearly aware of that, and that the rezoning is necessary for these developments to actually be permitted and actually constructed in the future. The purpose of these photos is just to give you an idea is that the intended residential development is on the high land. So you can see the picture with just the concepts to the left, but to the right, that would be the vista you would see from the right on my screen, would be the vistas you would see from those residential lots. So they're a considerable distance from the river edge. They're outside of the flood hazard zone, which we've talked about in the report, as well as they are going to be accessed, as I mentioned earlier, by a private road system that will be designed and built to our municipal private road standards. The air photo to the bottom right is one that we actually received that gives you an idea that there's a lot of green space left along the river edge, and as well as the... Excuse me, Your Worship, I'll just continue. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir, there'll be no more of that, okay, or I'll ask you to leave.
But also what you can note, Your Worship, in the center of that photo, you can see a pond area. So that is one of two developed stormwater retention ponds that the stormwater is being directed into, not just during construction, but will be a permanent part of the development. Next slide, Peter, please. So another issue that came up in the conversations with the developer, and we have had some input from the public on, is access to the trails, and especially the ones that are used by the snowmobile groups and by the side-by-side and ATV users. So the proponent has proposed a rerouting, which you can see in green on the trail map that's here, and it's really removing the trail access that would go through the heart of the development, but still that rerouting is along a trail system that exists and still connects folks to that overall trail system. It's my understanding that the proponents had conversations with the trail users and the trail associations as well as this development, as I mentioned earlier, Your Worship, will have connections with trails back into the development so folks can get access to the future food and beverage facility as well. Potentially owners of homes in the private subdivision will want access to the trails as well, so they'll also have connection and access to the trails. Some of the trails that will be developed, as I mentioned, would be for more passive use like Nordic ski and snowshoeing that was mentioned earlier. So this map, again, it's multiple PIDs. The map to the left on my screen is showing in a heavy outline in black because it's all resource, multiple PIDs, a little hard to see. So we outlined all of the PIDs that are being impacted by the rezoning. And then the photo to my right is showing in the lighter brown color the properties that would actually be rezoned to the commercial recreational zone use. So again, just for context, it's a large parcel, a number of large parcels, and so it's clear for the public and for council the properties that are being changed through this rezoning. As part of this development, we're proposing some text amendments to our land use bylaw. So these have all been vetted through policy. They're all permitted to happen as part of the rezoning application. We can do text amendments. They're not requiring any policy changes. So what we're looking at doing is in section 12.52 of the land use bylaw, we're adding the word park into the flood hazard zone. There is some overlying, the flood hazard zone overlies on the resource zoning designation, and it is very restrictive. And in this case, we have had other park type uses that would be in the flood hazard zone. We're just clarifying this in the text amendment here, Your Worship and members of council. As part of that, we're going to clearly define in our definitions what a park includes. And for the purpose of this development and future developments that might happen within a park designation within the flood hazard zone, parks would include fairways and greens as part of a golf course development, may include play structures like if you had playgrounds or structures as such, and it would limit any development to structures that are under 20 square meters. So that's essentially the size of a baby barn. That's a similar size that's used in the building code for buildings that don't require a building permit. And the reason for that change, Your Worship and members of council, is to allow if there was a pump house or some support facility that was needed to support irrigation or maybe a lighting or something along that vein, it would allow those structures to be put in place. So that was the reason to make it a little clear what the park definition would be, and that would be in section 13 of the land use bylaw. So again, financial implications. River Phillip and Collingwood area is an area that does support some tourism activity, so we keep that in mind. And we kept that in mind as when we're looking at the potential impacts of the development. Development of the River Phillip Golf Course and the development on the Bragg lands would accommodate traveling public and support tourism industry in the area. Obviously, this will in turn probably, in our opinion, will support local economic activity. So, and new employment, obviously. The golf course resort would become a significant commercial taxpayer through property taxes. So important to note the environmental implications. Proposed development would be serviced by either on-site sewage disposal or a private sewage treatment system, as I mentioned earlier. All of that would require approval from Nova Scotia Department of Environment at the full subdivision and building permit stage. Each system installed will require a permit at that permitting stage, as mentioned earlier. At the subdivision stage, a stormwater drainage plan is required in order to look at the servicing and part of the subdivision, which also impacts the private roads I mentioned earlier. The proponent, and I'm going to speak to that in a moment, has engineers on site, both environmental and civil engineers that are directing both stormwater planning, but also erosion and sediment control while the construction is taking place and during the future construction should the rezoning be approved. Portion of the subject properties I mentioned earlier are in the flood hazard zone, which does limit development. However, the applicant is proposing strategic placement of the land uses. The clubhouse, the residential developments are all happening on higher ground, nowhere in close proximity to the flood hazard zone whatsoever. We don't permit in this particular area developments in the flood hazard zone, such as homes, et cetera. We are aligning the permitted uses, as I just explained, on the definitions and those special sections of the flood hazard zone. Portions of flood hazard zone are being considered, but not being considered as part of the development. This plan, it's a bit of an eye chart, but the reason I'm putting it here is just to speak to it in general. This is a stormwater management plan for the whole development. You can see to the lower and to the right, you can see where the housing development would go. And then the golf course is kind of intertwined between the housing development and the edge of the river. This plan is showing that all the stormwater is pushed away from the river, from the developments. They're all moved down towards those stormwater retention ponds that I referred to earlier. The proponent in their presentation also has a plan that shows that they have erosion and sediment control in place during the earthworks and during all the future construction. So that includes stormwater management during construction, includes silt fences. They have interceptor trenches between the river and where the earthworks are happening, so that also catches water that may head towards the river. They've been doing some hydroseeding along the river, as well as straw cover over some of that hydroseeding. Myself and our planner, Kira, were on site at the end of July. We did see all these items were in place, and that there was consideration to do even more enhanced work. While we were on site, we saw the Strum Environmental and Engineering folks were on site. In fact, we ran into them in 3 different locations during our site visit at the time. So from a community engagement perspective, Your Worship, we're here today at the public hearing. That's a required part of the Municipal Government Act and the process. We ensured that the notices were on our municipal website in alignment with the MGA. We also made sure that notice was the 2 weeks prior. We did place an ad in the Chronicle Herald. We're still doing that on one run. We're not required to do it under the Municipal Government Act, but something that we do to make sure that the public's aware of the projects. And furthermore, 2 planning notices were put on the site. Again, that's an extra step that we take. We do that usually just in advance of the public hearing. That they were put up just about a week ago, but we leave them up during the process, including up to and after any appeal periods, should council approve this at second reading consideration. When we produce this PowerPoint, Your Worship, we had 8 communications from the public at the time. That has increased now to, I believe, 13. There was an attachment F that was made as part of the council package, and I can speak to that in a moment. Recommendations, none at this time because it's the public hearing stage, so there's a chance to hear updated information from staff as well as from the public and the proponent. So I think that's the last slide in there, Peter. So what I will state is that a lot of the information that came from the public, Worship, I know you're going to ask me this question, so I'm going to wait till you ask, and then I'll speak to the public input that we received.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Have there been any written submissions received?
So, yes, Your Worship, there is. I know that in the process, when we have limited submissions, we'll try to read portions of those into the record. The submissions that were received, the majority came yesterday and again today. Those were created into a package provided to all council members, as well as additional receipt of information that was received from the public since that publication or since that addition was put in your package yesterday. Those were distributed to council just now because these were coming up until about just around 1:15 today. Okay. What will happen with these, Your Worship, I'll give a quick summary now. I'm not going to read them all into the record, with your pleasure and council's, to allow the public a chance to speak on the matter. Mm-hmm. All of these submissions were provided to council. They will become part of the second reading report. And what we've done in the past is we've created a summary of those inputs that we will give to council as part of that second reading report. That will give us more time, myself and Kira, the planner, to go through these in detail to make sure we're being respectful of the comments that we received. The majority of the comments have been around protection of the river, obviously. It's a key component. As I mentioned earlier, we have the flood hazard zone that we're considering in this development, so no actual construction of buildings and major buildings, with the exception of the 20 square meter utility buildings I spoke to, would happen in that flood hazard zone. We have in our current land use bylaw a shoreline buffer and a watercourse buffer that also creates a 20-meter setback from the river from any construction anyways. In this case, the combination of that and the flood hazard zone is going to keep development away from the river in that respect. One other item that I did mention during the presentation when I showed the mapping for the trails and for the ATV and snowmobile trails is that was brought up in one of the comments that we did receive as well. So I just wanted to be clear that we're aware of that concern. We have worked with the developer. They've been working with the trails associations and ATV clubs to make sure that access is still there. It may go a little bit more of a periphery route, but I know that's been discussed with the ATV groups as well. So not to discount what we received. A lot of it's come in very recent times. That's a quick summary of what we received. We've provided the written submissions to council and yourself, your worship. The only one that may not have been in that package, your worship, is one that you received directly from Mr. Dort. So that would be part of any raised similar concerns.
Yes.
Very well written responses we've had from the public. We want time to try to analyze that and put a little bit of more summary together. We did have 2 phone calls as well, and those were more concerned about the process and how this will go through the public system. We reinforced this meeting today, so folks were welcome to attend. And we have told everyone that wrote to us in the last couple of days about this hearing today and the ability for them to attend and present as well.
So just to be clear, today will be the end of written submissions and whatever, or do we continue to collect them up until the next?
We have in the past, your worship. It's a good question, and it was actually raised with me today by some other staff members, is that we'll still take input, but there has to be a finite time where we have to look at closing that. Technically, this is the process where you get the information to us and to council as a whole and to the rest of the public, but we would still take inputs. At some point, we have to close off the second reading report so we can vet it internally with staff and get it to you in your package. So if I was to look at that, I would want any comments to be received well in advance of this time next week.
Sure.
If that's fair, I'll let the CAO talk to it as well.
Go ahead, Mr. Hipp.
Yeah, in terms of receiving, continuing to receive written submissions, in order for them to be included in the council package, we'd need to have them a week in advance of the council meeting. Looks like second reading will likely be September 17th. I suppose it could be later than that. So we would be looking at September 10th as a cutoff for written submissions. I think practically speaking, though, as we receive input right up until the time council makes its decision, we would certainly make sure that council had access to it. So it's a practical matter in terms of being included in the written package for the meeting. It would be the cutoff a week before, but in terms of ensuring that we made every effort that council had access to the public written comment, we would do it right up until the day of the meeting.
Yep, thank you. So, your worship, if I can also add that the project manager for the Bragg Group is here today, Ragnar Camp, and he's going to speak once the public has had a chance to input. And also with Ragnar today is Brent Locke, and Brent with the North Shore Rivers Restoration Association, so they have been engaged with the Bragg Group, and they have done a lot of good work on river preservation, restoration. And I know that you had in your package a letter from the Nova Scotia Salmon Association. So there would have been an update correspondence from the executive director of that group that would have been added to your package. I think that's important to note today that the proponent has done those engagements with those groups. I did mention earlier the 2 things just to re-stress is they have an environmental engineer and a site engineer as part of this, and I mentioned the watercourse buffers. So just some notes I wanted to make sure I reinforced.
Yeah, and that's a completely different, just to be clear, a completely different level outside of the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and their actions and activities too?
Correct.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure that I get that clear in my mind, so. Okay, so we'll now move on to the public participation part of the public hearing. And so anyone that's in the gallery that wishes to speak can come up to the table one at a time. And I will remind you that you get 5 minutes. It doesn't mean you have to use the whole 5 minutes, but that's the max. And you only get to speak once for 5 minutes, and then you are done and we move on to the next person. So, so we now have one person here. Please state your name and address, sir, before you start.
My name is Larry Duchesne. I'm a resident of River Phillip. My property abuts the river. And I have a number of concerns. The first one being that I don't think most people along the river even know about this hearing today. I just found out about it today. An ad in the Chronicle Herald doesn't go very far because the Chronicle Herald isn't even delivered up in our area, and very few people read it online. It's a significant project, and a project of this size, I believe, deserves a significant environmental impact assessment study. And I don't think that's happening or has happened, or you correct me if I'm wrong. And there's work happening up there now. The presenter says it's not associated with the actual construction, but it's being done in advance of, and it's certainly associated with, and I think council should take some responsibility for it. We talk about a 20-foot setback, but does that include a 20-foot setback on elimination of vegetation? You know, he talked about a 20-foot setback on construction. I think we have to make sure that the vegetation is left, because vegetation is going to be important to the protection of the river in the long term. There's a lot of the golf course that touches on the river. I haven't had a chance to look heavily at it, but I don't think anybody would doubt that. And green grass is a favorite product of a golf course. And green grass is maintained by the use of chemicals. So I think council also has to be aware of that and look ahead to how they're going to control the use of chemicals and how they're going to you're going to prevent the spilling of chemicals into the river. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deschênes. And I will remind you again, Mr. Deschênes, that I didn't respond to any of your points or questions because this is your chance to speak. All of that is recorded and is taken into consideration, just so you know, okay? It's not that I don't want to engage you. The rules are very clear that I have to listen to you, okay? So, anyone else? Sir, if we could have your name and address.
Robert Weatherby, 355 Wentworth Collingwood Road, or Williamsdale Road. I guess they change it when they want. But yeah, I got to consider, like I say, some of that, there's the green grass and the chemicals that's going to make grass. And look at the grass we got right now. We don't have green grass. We have brown grass, and he's not going to like brown grass in his golf course. So I see what he does now to get water. Is that where, and he's got these ponds, but they're going to be dry too, like we have a year like now. And right now, I see what he does with his blueberries. He's got a fancy blueberry system up in the back field with these blasters that I could hit the house over there across the road with. And he's got like 20 of them in these fields. And he runs them from 6 and 7 in the morning until 12 o'clock. I seen the other day, I had to go up down and put a sign up there, fish need water too. Because he does that every other day, waters this with these elaborate things. They've got to be 1,000 gallons an hour. I mean, if you look, he can't, nobody else can see them because but I'm up on the hill looking down. So when I have my breakfast, I'm looking down at him doing that. We got no water. The river's lower than we ever had. And this is what he's doing. So we got to have some kind of regulation to keep him in line. Because he's got money, he can do whatever he wants, he figures. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And the other thing is this road system. That road's been there 100 years and more. And lots of different lots along that thing with different farms. Everybody used that road even till now. The snowmobiles use it, the four-wheelers use it. People in the community use it to walk on, go hunting, the old guys, myself too. I'm getting there. But anyway, fishing along that river. Now they're trying to put that trail miles away from the river. That road's been there for over 100 years. And we use it. They got no right. I went over there this morning, and right where the road goes over from the pole line over to the Wyndham Road, they got a 50-foot bank in the middle of that road. You can't even get to it. And that's what the guy said to me. Well, you good luck finding it. Well, I GPSed it, so I know where it's at. And I got a bulldozer. So I'll find it. But they, they don't, I know the rights to the right-of-ways. I fought at the beach, a few of them, and I got my right-of-ways. And that's what I'll do here. That right-of-way is ours. I'm not sure if I shouldn't be speaking. That road that goes from Ripley Road, it says right in the thing, if you look, Ripley Road number 4, goes right along that river, right down the pole line and all the way over to Wyndham. And now they're blocking it. And like I say, if he had come and talked to us and told us, the community, I'm gonna shut that off. Last year, we cut the snowmobiles from going through that trail. And, they fixed all the bridges and built it all. But yet he stopped them, put big signs up, stopped them from using the trail, and never did nothing in there until this spring, just being a bully. These are snowmobiles wanting to use that back way. And same as myself, I got land on Ripley Road, and I have land on, so I go down to the fire hall, go up the back road, and go up to my other land with my backhoe or my truck or whatever, right? It's a pleasant drive to go up and through there. Now, like I say, bully appears, puts big block ups, no trespassing signs, and he just bought the land. It come from Paul Bragg, which lost it, and Carl got it for whatever through the bank things. But Carl was a pretty good guy, left it, and there was no blockades on that road ever. I've been there for 25, 30 years. I've used that road every year. Nobody's ever stopped me or blocked me. Now I see this, he figures that's gonna block me? At the beach, they dug holes in the ground. I went and filled them back up. I got a hi-ho too. Chains, move them, don't wrap them around their head, just put them on the side. Like I say, trying to be, he's not respecting us, is what he's not, that's our thing. He wants to have a golf course because he got a line on about Fox Harbor. That's his thing, okay. He can have the golf course and.
Just one more minute.
Okay, yeah. And the water thing, like I say, he's got to respect the water and the fish and the river. There's a 1,000-foot dust storm under there. They just started putting the silt fences up within the last month. And the dust storm, they finally started watering the roads because you could see down from my place 1,000 foot of dust going over the town. And everybody, you could ask anybody in town. The windows are brown, the cars were brown. Respect us, is what I'm saying. And you guys do your job to protect us and the animals. Years ago, when the blueberries were up, or whatever, and the deer went in the fields, they just shot them in the stomach, and that was part of that system, right? Now they don't do it as much, but they probably still happen. But back then, I remember when I come around 20, 30 years ago, I thought, what do they do? Shoot all the deer in the field and let them go in the woods and die? To save a blueberry? I know the blueberries are bad this year.
If you could wrap that up, please.
Okay, but, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it.
That's a little
But yeah,
loud.
anyway,
I didn't mean to do that, sorry.
and like I say, I'm gonna, if I need to, I'll bulldoze that road and find it myself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weatherby.
Supreme Court, where's it gotta go?
Thank you very much, Mr. Weatherby. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Going twice, third time. Next up, is any additional comments or an opportunity for the applicants to speak? Am I correct, Mr. Boone?
Yes, Your Worship, Mr.
I
Camp
understand
is
they
gonna
wish to.
speak, and there's a presentation that Mr. McCracken has that he would bring up. So I'll ask Ragnar to take the chair.
Thank you very much. You have your name and address too, sir, please?
Sure, my name is Ragnar Camp, and I live in West Leicester, when I'm not spending a lot of time in Collingwood. Thanks for the opportunity
Thank you very much.
to talk about the project, even though it's going to be a little redundant because Glenn did such a great job explaining what we're trying to do. But maybe I can add a little color and, if nothing else, some enthusiasm about the project. So what we're trying to do is build a four-season resort in Collingwood. And let me just tell you a little bit about the history of the two sides of the river. The western side, where the McSorleys had an asphalt plant, this goes back 55, 60, 70 years. And when they were done taking all the gravel, they left the gravel pit, and they left a mess. On the Bragg side of the river, actually our own province bought the gravel rights back then, took all the gravel, and then they sold the land back to the Bragg family. And when they were done, they walked away, left a mess. So what we're trying to do is basically restore two old gravel pits and make something that's quite nice out of it. So we can switch to the next one. So the location, you can see that where you have the star next to Spring Hill. And what I want to point out here, it's about an hour and 45 minutes from Halifax by car, an hour and 10 from Moncton, and 2.5 hours from St. John. When you look at the number of people living within that distance, we're looking at likely more than 1 million people. So we think that we can really add something to the area with this. What we're going to offer is, as you can see here, golf. We can keep going. And we hope to have, we're going to have bike trails, mountain biking, pickleball, ATV and hiking, big part of this, as well as and then we have the salmon, of course, trout fishing, and hunting. Wintertime, since it's going to be a 4-season resort, we'll have Nordic skiing, snowshoeing, and obviously snowmobiling. And don't forget that Wentworth is only 20 minutes away with their downhill skiing wintertime and the biking summertime that they're offering now too. So we really think we have something to offer. We're also going to include an RV park, fully serviced lots, and you're familiar with RV parks with swimming pools and everything else. We're going to offer building lots, 160, 180, we'll see when we get to that point, where people can build, I don't know if you call them camps or whatever, but we'll see what it looks like in the end. They're going to be fully serviced. We're going to provide the water and take care of what comes out after. What else do you have? Yeah. We're going to build a clubhouse. We're going to have a pub and a restaurant open to the public. So this was the first concept plan. It's changed a little bit since. We can keep going. This is more what it looks like today. And one thing I want to mention here, since water usage was brought up, we are going to supply water. We have found a good well. It's called the Bedrock Well, and it's on high ground, and it's about 1 kilometer away from the river. So no impact whatsoever. We can keep going. So we're working with Strum Engineering, and all the rainfall falling on this land, 90% of it will be recovered and used for irrigation. And the golf holes along the river are designed and shaped so that the water will drain away from the river. Pesticides have been brought up, and I guess everybody knows that golf courses use pesticides. Now, if you shape the runoff away from the river, you can control that quite well. And let's not forget that, our companies have farmed blueberries in this watershed, and also in other watersheds. And I should mention, in the state of Maine, we've been farming blueberries in 3 watersheds, salmon watersheds, the Nenaguagas, the Chayas, and the Pleasant River, without any incidents whatsoever. We know how to do this. We can switch to the next one. So this is our sediment and erosion control plan. And if you look closely, you can see along the river some yellow lines and some green lines and some orange lines. And this all represents silt fencing we have in place, berms we have in place, and hydroseeding that we have in place, and also other safety measures. And again, approved and designed by the Strum Engineering firm. Okay. just a little more detailed plan of where we currently are with the housing development. We know this is going to change, but just, again, we're trying to do this right. So we talked about the ATV and snowmobiling. So the existing, that's the red line, and I know Glenn touched on this as well. With this development, that's no longer possible. Instead, we are rerouting it by the green line. It will still allow, for example, once you're in Williamsdale, you'll be able to come into the resort along the red line, and then likely cross out into Collingwood along our new road. So we're going to get along. So 2 days ago, we had quite a bit of rain in the Collingwood area. And what you're looking at here are 3 pictures. The one to the left is upstream of our development after the rain. The one on the upper right is right in the middle of our development. And the one on the bottom right is right at the tail end of our development. I think the picture speaks for themselves. Okay, I should also mention that we're working closely with Brent here and the River Association, because the reason we want to do this is because of the River Phillip. It's the star of our development. It's probably even more important to us to keep that river healthy and have the salmon and the trout fishery. So we're going to look after it, and that's why we're partnering with Brent. So thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Camp. I'm not allowed, I don't think we're allowed to ask him questions. We're allowed to ask questions to the staff member according to the directions that I have here, so we'll excuse you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, we can bring you back for a point of clarification at some point if we need it. Is there any additional questions from councilors? What's wrong? Oh, sorry, okay. I can't see his hand behind this screen of Greg's computer. Okay, Councilor Lockhart, go ahead.
Yeah, so I already discussed this with Glenn a little bit in detail, but my biggest concerns are that the environment always be kept number one in this project, and also the trails maintained for the ATV snowmobile use. That's very important. That's been a traditionally snowmobile ATV place since the 70s, and that's very important to maintain that. So those are my 2 concerns.
Mr. Mayor.
Went off here.
Jen has her hand up.
Yep, we'll get to her in a minute.
Is that on? We're good? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Back to Councillor Lockhart. So I gave an overview under the environmental section in the report, the things the proponents doing that they spoke to, both during land development and then the future construction, erosion and sediment control measures put in place. We do have the buffer that's required from the river. We're not permitting any development within the flood hazard zone. And long-term, they have a stormwater management plan that utilizes stormwater retention ponds. And as well as Mr. Camp said, even the holes that are along the river, they're shaped to run the water away. So I would just say those very quick in general, Your Worship. From the environmental perspective, we make sure that anything that we control through the land use bylaw and the municipal planning strategy for the environment is detailed in this process. And with respect to the trails, from the beginning, we had that conversation with the proponent to make sure the importance of the trails. Cumberland as a whole is very well known for our trails and for the access and all seasons, not just the 4. So having that rerouting access was really important to us in this overall project. So hopefully those things have been addressed by myself and by the proponent today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Councilor Hotelling, go ahead, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to staff and the presenter for the detailed information. It was really nice to hear that you are looking at a plan for restoring the shoreline and working with the organization to do that. I'm happy to hear that. I did want to just raise the concern of our municipality not having a vegetative buffer along watercourse. And I know that other municipalities do have a vegetative buffer. So I just wanted to know that, or ask if we could consider changing the definition of park within our changes currently and add a vegetative buffer. For example, Lunenburg's vegetative buffer is 15 meters. So I'd just like to ask that of staff, please.
Thank you very much, Councilor Telling. Mr. Boone?
Yeah, Your Worship, if you could just bear with me for a sec, because Karen and I tried to do a little bit of work on this, and my computer's disconnected from the system, so I'll have to do it by memory. Councilor Hotelling, back to you through Your Worship. The definition would probably be a difficult place to address it, because the definition that we're using to address this is specific to park, doesn't necessarily talk about a vegetative buffer. Two places I think we could look at doing this, and it might not be appropriate as part of this application, would be to look at what we already have in our watercourse sections in the bylaw. And just, I apologize that the sections are coming right up, but it's section 4. One part is section 4 of the LUB. And then there's also a section in 5 where we could talk about enhanced requirements with our buffers. I think you may recall we had one planning application where we looked at doing a specific vegetative buffer between certain uses. We did that between industrial and residential uses, so we have talked about that. I feel that a very appropriate place, and we've already had these conversations with our staff and with the proponent that's going to lead our plan review. I think that's a very appropriate place for the more detailed review of vegetative buffers. I'm in general am supportive of that approach. I just think it has to be done more holistic as opposed to project specific. So, and I think the CAO is going to comment on process within this bylaw.
Yep, thank you. Yep.
Mr. Hurt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Councilor Hotelling. In terms of process today, as we set out, is a public hearing designed to receive details about the project from both the proponent and from the planning staff who have analyzed it and made their recommendations. And so today is a input gathering stage. In terms of changing and making motions and introducing amendments, Councilor Hotelling, at second reading, if you felt that you wanted to bring forward amendments at second reading, whenever that is, whether it's September 17th or a subsequent date, that would be the place to do it. So it isn't in order in today's proceeding, at least.
Councilor Telling.
Thank you, CAO and Director Boone. I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure that my comments were heard here today.
Thank you very much. Councilor Lee, go ahead.
Your Worship, thank you. Just a quick question, please, just for clarification. I believe your name was Brent, and I was looking, River Association, just for my own curiosity, where could I read up on any information or about your organization, please?
Got to come here.
Sorry, Your Worship. Can I please get that information?
There you go. Okay, back to Mr.
Thank
Boone.
you.
Okay.
Your Worship, I will connect all of council with Brent and his organization, because I've been in contact with him both in email and in a conversation. So I'll connect all of council should they want to read up on the organization. That might be the simplest way to do it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Your
okay with
Worship.
that, Councilor Lee?
Thank you, Your
Okay,
Worship.
good. Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Gould, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just maybe a point of clarification. So we have Department of Environment that has the regulations that are required for them to proceed with this. I'm just wondering about the enforcement and who checks that or who makes sure that it's being followed.
Go ahead, Mr. Boone.
Your Worship, back to Deputy Mayor Gould. Department of Environment has staff locally that manage a lot of their components. They do have an enforcement group as well, and Mr. Camp has been actually in contact with the enforcement group. My understanding as well is that the plan has also been shared with Department of Fisheries. as, from the federal side. We have had conversations, Kira and I, with local environment to make sure that someone was paying attention to the project. Hard for us to have that oversight because that's not our authority, but just to make sure that they're aware. And our conversations with the proponent, both in meetings and in writing, was to make sure that those elements are in place, which is one of the reasons we did the site visit end of July, and Mr. Camp took us through the whole site, nothing to hide. Took us through the development, so we're going to be understanding where the actual construction and whatnot goes. So happy to follow up with the Department of Environment, Your Worship, just to make sure they're continuing their good work and oversight. And I know that the proponent has been making the right connections with the right folks, and as well as the stuff we talked about with Strum Environmental and Engineering that are on site, working on all of those components to put those elements in place, both during construction and site stormwater management after development's constructed, should that be how it proceeds.
So, just for one more, so they're doing on-site inspections or?
Your Worship, back to Deputy Mayor, I can't confirm, I just know they're aware of the project, but I will follow up with the Department of Environment in advance of the second reading. It's really their process to manage, but we've been on the periphery. I know the proponent and the site manager or the project manager is aware of those requirements. What should be noted is when development actually happens for water and on-site, whether it's a privatized system or on-site sewer septic systems I mentioned earlier, all of those would be approved by the Department of Environment. So actual sewage disposal is 100% Department of Environment, and we need that information before we issue permits to build any structures, restaurant, inn, or houses on the site.
So the main concern that I'm seeing is specifically with the river at this point.
Yes.
And so the on-site inspection from the environment would be something that I would deem as important, because in every situation we get into, there's two sides. So obviously the proponent is going to show us everything that's positive about it, and then the public is that's against it is going to tell us everything that's negative about it. So we can all look at pictures and say they're following the rules. I would feel a lot more comfortable if I knew that the environment was on site once in a while and checking out to make sure that things are being done. But I know that's not our expertise, and it's certainly not mine. That's why I asked the question, but thank you.
Thank you very much,
Can
Deputy
I
Mayor.
just add to that for clarity?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Mr. Herrick.
Thank you, and it's a good question. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And I would encourage you or any member of council or any member of the public for that matter, if there are concerns regarding the river and enforcement of the regulations, the Environment Act, and those related pieces of legislation, the folks call the local office of the Department of Environment, Nova Scotia Environment, speak with one of their compliance officers, express their concerns, and get the story, so to speak, from the horse's mouth. So I would encourage anybody to do that.
And to add to that, Your Worship, and back to Deputy Mayor, it was our intent, based on all the information that's percolated in the last couple of days, was just us to reach out in advance of the second reading, just to make sure that those things are online, which is what I should have said to you first. So,
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. Does anyone else from council have any questions or comments? I see none. Before I close the public hearing, I would like to say that in the information that we will see before the next second reading of this item, I noticed today the very detailed map of the rerouting of the trail. I would like to know the distance between the interconnecting green intersections, where the green and the red intersect now, versus what will be in the future, like the distance that will be required to travel, for example, to go around the development versus where it is today, just for relevance. Is it 1 kilometer in the difference, or half a kilometer, or 10? Just out of curiosity, more than anything, to know how much we're putting the trail users off, perhaps. The other one, I think the big questions here in this are, as I see it, water and where will the water come from. I'm reading a lot of the submissions that have been taken. I've read them all up until the ones that were received just prior to the meeting this afternoon, and most of them concerns assume that the project is going to draw water out of the river. So I'd like to see some information before the next talk of this about what's going to happen with that. I know that there are concerns about pesticides and fertilizer usage and so on and so forth. And the last but not least would be siltation of the salmon and trout spawning beds in the river. I see those as the big three from the responses and from the input of the public that I've seen so far. So if any information that, I saw some today, any further information or any more clarification on any of those would be very welcome between now and the next reading of this, from my perspective. So, thank you very much, Mr. Boone. I will now close the public hearing if no one has any other comments from council. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much, everyone. There are no, yeah, you're welcome to leave if you want now. I wouldn't push it if I were you too. There are no strategic and priority issues for today, nor are there any major organizational items. Organizational bylaw policy items. Let's try that again. 5.1, first reading the bylaw to amend the LUB 25-10 to rezone a portion of PID 25127630. Director Boone, you now have the floor again.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just changing veins here, so just bear with me. Thank you.
Can we close that? There's a lot of noise out there. Do we gotta stay open?
Yep.
Can we move them along?
I just asked them if they can move to the
Can
side.
stay open, just ask
Yeah,
them.
thank you.
Move along a little bit.
They can use the lunchroom.
Yeah, I can hardly hear you with the noise out in the background.
Okay, sorry, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
And also, for those that may be viewing as well. So first reading, council is familiar with the process. This is a new application that we've been working on for actually a number of months now. It came forward based on a request for some permitting, and the potential use was not permitted in the zone. So been working with the proponent to undertake this change. So we're ready to move there, Peter. Thank you. So give you some background. This is a large parcel owned by Mr. Adshade. The applicant, Mr. Adshade, has signed off on this, but he also, the operator of this facility, is his son-in-law, but actually lives on the property as well. And they're not looking at rezoning the whole parcel. They're just looking at rezoning a portion of the lands to fit the particular use. So the plan is a storage of, it's referred to as heavy equipment, but in this case, it's more utility trailers, potentially cattle-type trailers, open flat deck trailers. But the only way the definition works is it's seen as heavy equipment sales and potentially service and sale of parts. So just to try to put that in perspective, Your Worship, this is how it best works from a rezoning and a defining the potential use. Potential future uses of the property, we like to talk to the applicants about those, would include a small office. They're not planning that initially, and self-storage units for folks that want to rent space in a self-storage building or a self-storage type facility. And in order to do that potential use in the future, it requires the same zone. So we try to be proactive, make sure that you as council knows what the proposed use of a development is for rezoning, but the potential future uses are as well. So this is currently agricultural zone, and it will go to the rural industrial zone. I know that the former members of council had seen a number of these changes from agricultural to rural industrial. For the newer councilors, this might be one of the newer ones that you're seeing in this respect. And this is not uncommon to have these challenges within the rural areas for folks that are trying to do businesses that may make sense to be an agricultural zone, but in this case, specifically the sales and display and parts selling of heavy equipment is not permitted, but you could actually do the repairs in the agricultural zone. So thus the need for the change. The proponent provided us the plan to the upper left. It's a sketch plan that said, look, this is the area that we really want to put the business on. So we use that as a way to create the portion of the lot that we're considering rezoning. But also important to note that this particular area where they're developing was already cleared and free of trees. So that's an area that they've done some infilling now, and they're aware they can't operate until this rezoning is considered and should council approve it. This plan also shows you perspective of, as far as location goes. Their home is the one shown at 399, but also shows that there's some other homes in the general area. The majority of them are set quite a ways back from the street or are well treed from this potential location in all directions. Kira and I were at the site late July just to make sure that we understood the kind of neighborhood character and how things laid out. So again, this is the actual zoning map that gets attached to the amendment to make it clear. This is the area that we're considering the rezoning to change. So the majority of the property, I think it's around 33 acres, will remain as agricultural. It's only the area where this actual business will occupy a space where the rezoning to the rural industrial will take place. A few pictures on the site. They have installed some fencing. They did some site work on what was already cleared land. The proponent's very much aware that they can't operate until this rezoning is in place. Those conversations have been held, and they're aligning with the process, which is why we have the application before you. From an access point of view, you can see it's fairly treed in all locations around this. They had to get a commercial driveway approval from the Department of Transportation / Public Works is required for this development to move forward. So no direct financial implications or cost to municipality. The rezoning will likely result in a reassessment to commercial for the property, which will create a little bit higher tax property revenue or tax value. Environmental implication. Subject land does not have any environmental constraints. There is a brook that runs along the property, Your Worship, but we're well outside the required buffers for any development from the brook because it's on the extreme opposite end. There's no public requirement for public washroom. They're not putting an actual office building on site. They, for their own purposes, most of these transactions take place online, or anything that may have to occur can transpire from their home office, which is a permitted use in their house, should they require that. In the future, should they add the office space, they will require a building permit, obviously, and would require an on-site sewage disposal system. That will obviously trigger requirements around accessibility with the office for both the bathroom and for the building. But at this point, they're not looking at putting a sewage disposal system on the site. It's large enough, should they require to do that in the future, that there would be no issue accommodating that on the site as far as what they're looking to rezone. From a community engagement perspective, Your Worship, it would be similar to all of these that we run through. If council wants to go forward and approves a motion today, we will follow the Municipal Government Act, duly advertised the way we do in our process, and we would have an ad on our website. We still use the paper, as I mentioned, and we would put planning notices on the site once council decides to go forward. At this point, Your Worship, the recommendations before you. Happy to answer any questions, and obviously a more detailed presentation would happen at the public hearing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boone. The recommended motion is that council approve first reading of the bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 25-10 to rezone a portion of PID 25127630 from AG zone to rural industrial zone, and schedule a public hearing to do so. If somebody would like to make the move by Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Lockhart. Any questions or comments on any of this from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Lockhart.
I drove by it the other day and I wasn't sure what it was. Now I know what it was. So that's yeah, it's a nice spot. They got it. It's well done. So yeah, no, that's my only comment.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Oh, okay, I'll call for the vote. All those. Councillor Redmond, go ahead.
I was just thinking about the advertisement. Do we do any advertisements in the casket? Because like our gentleman said about the Chronicle Herald, there are so many areas in Cumberland County that cannot get the Chronicle Herald. And the casket, and the casket is one that everybody gets free. And then at least you could say that it was in that.
So, Your Worship, back to Councillor Edmund. When we can, we use the casket. We have had conversations about not using the paper at all, and I think that would be coming back to a conversation here very soon. We use the casket when we can. It has a very long lead time to get notices in the casket. I've also heard the similar response with respect to the casket and its distribution within the area. We use the Herald because it is a provincial-wide paper, and we know that folks do pick it up other than delivery at home, and access to it is, I don't want to use the word easier, we have the ability to get to it more frequently. We could use the casket if we decide to, council's pleasure to continue using newspaper ads. We're not required to do it under the MGA. We still do it, the same as we're not required to put the signs on the lot. And I know that I've had this conversation with the CAO on a couple of occasions.
Thank you.
So,
You okay with that, Councillor?
It's just another area where we're forgotten in the north of Nova Scotia.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just address that. There was an MGA amendment of a year and a half ago. Prior to that amendment, there was a requirement that any number of places in the MGA where there was an advertisement required, it was in, quote, in a newspaper circulating in the community. So we can all sympathize and empathize with what you've just described because we're all living it. I'm not sure anybody outside of Amherst gets the door-to-door Herald anymore. But there are other avenues, and perhaps more effective ones, of notification. Social media, website, those sorts of things. And so the government did listen and did make that change and let us do that. So we'll probably have a policy discussion here in the fall before Christmas about where we should be advertising, where we should be notifying folks, and what the costs of those are, and what the distribution is, and where we get most folks. I will say this. No matter what the issue is, someone will always appear. And I'm not minimizing their opinion either. Someone will always appear and say, I don't get the paper, I don't have a computer, I don't listen to the radio, I don't. And so we do have to do it in the way that we get to most people, where they consume news or notices or whatever. That's the sweet spot. So we'll have a policy discussion before Christmas, probably.
Thank you very much.
Your Worship, just to reinforce that, Mr. Cole does put our notices on our Facebook and our Twitter and our X or whatever we call it. So we do exactly what the CAO says. We do put try to connect with as many people as you can. So that is part of the process. And we use the Voyant app as well to give notices of these meetings.
Right. Yeah. Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Business issue 6.1, Spring Hill Fire Hall temporary borrowing resolution. Amy Hurdle, our Director of Finance, will lead us through this.
Can we do one more planning thing?
Not yet, please.
Let's just do one more planning thing.
Comedian.
There's no water for
Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the 25-26 capital budget, it included long-term debt financing for part of the newly constructed Spring Hill Fire Hall. In order to approve that financing, we needed to wait for the construction to be done. The construction is now done. And so I am coming to council to ask for final approval on the resolutions to forward to the province to request the debenture.
Thank you very much, Amy. The recommended motion is that council approve the temporary borrowing resolutions attached for the Spring Hill Fire Hall. Number 1, temporary borrowing resolution, Spring Hill Fire Hall, in the amount of $2 million. Number 2, pre-approval resolution subject to interest rates. If somebody would like to make that motion, moved by Councilor Lockhart, seconded by Councilor Strong. And anyone have any comments or questions on any of this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Amy?
Your worship.
Don't leave town, I guess. 6.2, adjourn tax sale, minimum bids. Amy, you now have the floor again.
Thank you. We did review this previously. There is a list of properties in your package with the recommended minimum bids. And so unless there's any questions, I would be looking for the motion to approve the recommended minimum bid in the package.
Thank you very much, Amy. The recommended motion is that council approve the request for the minimum bids to be lowered on the 10 adjourned properties from the March 18th, 2025 tax sale to the recommended amounts. Moved by Councillor Fromm, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gould. Anyone have any questions on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Amy. 6.3, funding request from Wentworth Recreation Center Association. Deputy CEO Peter McCracken, you now have the floor, sir.
Nice warm seat here. Thank you, Your Worship. County General grants for a request of $3,000 was submitted by the Wentworth Recreation Center for $3,000 support programming. This was discussed very recently at a committee of the whole. If approved, the $3,000 will be allocated from the County General grants budget, and there's a recommended motion in your package.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. Recommended motion is the council approve the county general grant application for $3,000 for the Wentworth Recreation Center Association. If someone would like to make that motion, moved by Councillor Redmond, seconded by Councillor Hotelling. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Hearing none, motion is carried. Thank you very much. 6.4, funding request from Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue. And Councillor Fromm is now excusing himself under the Conflict of Interest Act. Do we want to point out that?
Sure thing.
Go ahead, Mr. Hare.
So Councillor Fromm is declaring an interest because he is the chair of the Pugwash Ground Search and Rescue Group.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. Mr. McCracken, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue has submitted a request to Mayor and Council for $9,130.42 to help with repairs to their ground search and rescue, one of their vehicles, their mobile command post vehicle. This was recently reviewed at a very recent committee of the whole meeting. Financial implications would be $9,130.42 from the county general grant budget. There's a recommended motion in your package.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. The recommended motion is the council approve the funding request for $9,130.42 for the Spring Hill Ground Search and Rescue. Moved by Councillor Lockhart, seconded by Councillor Strong. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Your Worship, before you do 6.5, if I could.
Go ahead.
We neglected to say at the beginning of the meeting that Councillor McCormick had sent her regrets. So just get that duly recorded in the minutes, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
We did for the first two, but not for this one. 6.5, September and October council meeting dates. Mr. McCracken, you're going to enlighten us on this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, as you know, Committee of the Whole and regular council meetings are normally held the third and fourth Wednesdays of the month. In September, we have a scheduling conflict with the regular council meeting. So we're asking that council reschedule both the Committee of the Whole and the council meetings in September to September 10th and 17th. We also have a scheduling conflict with the fourth Wednesday in October, so we're asking council to approve rescheduling that to October 29th, the fifth Wednesday of the month. There's a recommended motion in your package, as this has been discussed very recently at a Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. The recommended motion is that council approve the request to reschedule the September 2025 Committee of the Whole and regular council meetings from the third and fourth Wednesday of the month to the second and third Wednesdays, September 10th and September 17th, and the October 2025 council meeting from the fourth Wednesday to the fifth Wednesday, October 29th. If someone would like to make that motion, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, seconded by Councilor Fromm. Anyone have any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. McCracken. Item number 7, there are no information items for today's meeting, and I will now ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved by Deputy Mayor Gould. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.